So I'm here with my buddy, Randy Matsumoto, one of my oldest and closest friends. He's also a distinguished member of the 501st Legion, and of course, a huge Star Wars fan. So I just wanted to get some of his thoughts on The Mandalorian season two, and of course, just leading up to what he thought about the finale. Randy, thanks for doing this,
Yes.
man. I appreciate you, buddy.
Anytime for you. You know that.
Indeed, indeed. So, just overview, man. Season two of The Mandalorian's done. What did you think of it overall?
Overall, I have no complaints overall. Um, that's kind of putting it lightly, though. I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the show very much,
Okay.
and I don't think the second season disappointed at all.
Yeah, yeah. Would you say that season two was better than the first, in your opinion?
Um,
I know it's tough. It's like
it's
pick it between your kids.
it's it's I would be able to choose two kids. I think in terms of the nostalgia factor, season two has a little bit up on season one.
Yeah, yeah.
But again, that's just the nostalgia factor. There is nothing that has nothing to do with season one lacking in anything.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
it was
interesting because it does feel like they did add an extra dash of fan service this season.
They did, yeah, they did, and it's interesting to see. Not saying that J.J. Abrams is not a big Star Wars fan as he claimed he is when he's making the new trilogy, but you can tell that Favreau and Filoni are very big Star Wars fans.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because I know we've seen and heard Filoni speak on Star Wars, just from like a lore perspective and thematically, and just like one of those things where it's like it's just a different level of fandom, honestly.
Oh,
where,
yeah.
It's like I don't like, and I'm not saying that to disparage anybody, just because I don't know that I'm a Star Wars fan in the same way that Filoni is. You know what I'm saying? Like I enjoy it thoroughly.
Yeah.
But I know when he talks about it, it always feels like insights, where I'm like, wow, that's some amazing stuff. And you're right, it does show kind of like the difference between a certain level of or a certain type of fan making, coming to a property and trying to bring their own spin to it versus, I don't even want to say casual because I don't think of myself as a casual fan of Star Wars.
No.
But at the same time, and I know you're not. But at the same time, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, not everybody's on the same level. It's okay.
Yeah, no, and I'm not about to go and try and make a fan or a Star Wars universe story, and try to appease everybody. That's madness.
Indeed. Were there any episodes that stood out for you, especially like as far as like from this season that you're like, man, I really enjoyed this, or or even going the other direction? Was there any that maybe you're like, okay, that it was strange that this episode faltered in this way?
I don't know that I can say that a certain episode was strange or faltered anyone, because you have to kind of take when you watch The Mandalorian, you kind of have to accept the fact that it's while it is serialized, it's almost procedural from episode to episode, and you can very well, or you can really tell that they're trying to tell a certain story per episode. So I wouldn't say that. I will, but it would be hard for me to, with the exception of the finale, tell you that a certain episode stood out to me. I would say that certain scenes or sequences stood out to me. The opening sequence with Ahsoka in the woods. I mean, that was kind of mind blowing to me, and it definitely is a standout. certain parts of that episode, I can't even remember what happened because all I can think about is that opening sequence.
Indeed.
But but little things like that, like the in the very first episode at the end, when you see that figure turn around and you recognize that face, that it's Boba, and you kind of have that like, whoa, all right, you know, like in that first episode, nothing against it, but it was just kind of like, okay, it's a Mandalorian episode, and then that little sequence happened.
Right.
So it's little things like that stood out to me.
Absolute. Speaking of the finale, I mean, obviously, you know, huge for, I mean, if you're just a fan of the show, obviously, whether like this is the first Star Wars thing that someone's ever actually gotten into, I'm sure that they enjoyed it thoroughly. But, you know, for long time Star Wars fans, obviously the finale had a deep impact. What were your thoughts in regards to, you know, the finale, in regards to how Grogu's story actually ended up, you know, playing out? Like, what did you think about it all?
I was very curious to find out, because we know that there are certain Jedi still alive during this timeline. And so I was very curious to find out which Jedi was going to answer his call.
Right.
And I read some articles. Some people mentioned Ezra and like, this and that, and I don't really pay attention that much to those because I kind of want to go in like not having something already in my head.
Yeah.
But then when you see that X-wing, and you don't see any other X-wing with it,
right?
Yeah, you kind of there's only one person that could be.
Yeah.
And so like me versus my wife Katie, you know, we were sitting on the couch and we're both watching the same episode at the same time.
Right. And also in the 501st.
Also in the 501st.
Yeah.
And she's like mumbling like, "This is a powerful Jedi. Who is this Jedi? This is a powerful Jedi." And in my head, I'm like, "That's Luke Skywalker." You know, so it's like, you know, you have two different ways of thinking here, but I mean, it wasn't surprising to me when at the reveal at the end, because I kind of already had that feeling when I saw the X. But when I kind of screamed when I saw R2 roll out from behind him.
Yeah. It's so funny, man. Like I said, just the small things where it's like, you know, like, you know, take like, and it's one of those things too where I know for me watching it, it was interesting, the feeling of like, oh, like R2 was almost like, you know, the first Grogu. You know, as far as like, you know, like the first, like Star Wars lore's initial, like, you know, little cute thing that everybody's like, oh, but look at that.
Everybody loves R2. So.
And so, in regards to it ending up being Luke Skywalker, I mean, obviously, you know, like you said, you had seen, like, people have been speculating in regards to which Jedi it would be. Luke Skywalker, of course, was the obvious choice. Like, you know, it's like one of those things where it's like, I think the first, like, if you ask the question, the first person that's going to come to most people's mind is probably Luke Skywalker. Was that for you? Does that work out well for you in regards to like that reveal? I mean, like you said, you knew immediately once you saw the X-wing, but it's like, was there any part of you that wanted it to be somebody different, or did you want it to play out differently?
I like I said, I didn't really going into the episode. I tried to not have a going in with a certain mindset. I tried to have a blank, like, open mind about it. I think it was satisfying, and I don't think any other Jedi, at least amongst the ones that I heard people speculating about, I don't think it would have made as much of an impact.
Gotcha.
I think for what they wanted to do, Luke Skywalker was the perfect impact.
How do you feel about about where, or like with the resolution of Grogu's story now, how do you feel about how that sits in regards to what we know as continuity up until this point, which of course is like we're only talking about Disney canon at this point.
Sure.
So, yeah. What do you, how do you feel about it?
I feel fine about it. I don't think it messes up any canon with that really at all. I also for this show, I'm not entirely sure that that's the end of Grogu. You know, they're obviously Mandalorian's going to continue. We've now heard, I don't know if you saw it, but I was on Twitter today that they're saying the Book of Boba is going to be its own separate show.
Right.
So, I mean, the Mandalorian is obviously going to continue, and then they have with Ahsoka having her own show, and this I can't remember what it's called, some like Squadron kind of show that is supposed to go along with the same timeline as the Mandalorian. You kind of, you kind of have to think that everything's gonna, merge at some point in time.
Get some like Arrowverse action crossover type stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. Which, don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily, I don't need it, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I don't think they even need it to happen. Right. I just think that it's something that could possibly happen in the future. So I don't think that this is the last we see of Grogu, but I do feel like for the start of his arc, I think it ended well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Because Lord knows, I mean, we're all invested.
Oh yeah, totally.
We're all invested. So yeah.
We all have the merch. He's not going anywhere.
You went ahead and brought up the Book of Boba, which, the end credit scene, of course, set the stage for that, which, I assumed it was going to be its own show. But I do know that, people were definitely people had questions. So, is it its own thing? Yeah. It's going to be, is Mandalorian merging into that or what, What are your thoughts on, a show about Boba Fett in, I guess you could call it modern times. I mean, but you know what I mean. It's but continuing the story of Boba Fett moving forward. What are your thoughts on that?
I am to say that I'm excited is putting it mildly. When you have a character make that much of an impact in the original trilogy while having a total of maybe 20 minutes of screen time,
right?
And now he's going to have his own show, and just to see him walk into that, obviously it was Jabba's palace, right? And then kick that fool Bib Fortuna. First of all, how did Bib Fortuna survive the Return of the Jedi?
Bib Fortuna was eating well.
He was eating. This fool took his throne like a pimp.
Yeah.
I will say for the Book of Boba, if they start off with a flashback of him escaping the Sarlacc pit, that will make I don't need anything else from that show. If they start off like that, I don't need anything else from the show.
Dude, that would be so amazing. You're right. That is the way you should start it off.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But then that also begs the question because you brought up I believe you brought up the Disney and the decanonizing of some of the other stuff. So that Boba storyline was from the Bounty Hunter Chronicles when he escaped the Sarlacc pit. So are they trying to bring now canonize that little book? It's are we going to see Bosk in this show?
Yeah.
Are we going to see Dengar in the show? So all these things, all these questions. So.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see how they decide to resolve that aspect of things because I'm certain that we've already seen hints, of course, of things that were legends or that were considered legends, and slowly but surely they get brought into canon or whatnot. So it would not surprise me if they like pick and choose. But I think that's what they want, because they want to have the
Yeah.
ability to pick and choose. So,
Mhm.
so really, at this point, I just want to know what you think season 3 of The Mandalorian is going to be like. What do you feel like or not as much what do you feel, but what do you hope to see? Like, what are you looking for based on what you've seen from these past 2 seasons, and the kind of the story that they've set up so far? What are you hoping to see and get out of season 3?
I mean, it's funny you bring up hope, right? Because Star Wars is built on hope. Rebellions are built on hope. New Hope, all this hope going on in Star Wars. And if you ask me, Favreau and Filoni have already given me hope.
Mm-hmm.
So what I expecting out of season 3 is absolutely nothing. I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the ride that they've created. And it's not just them, right? It's like Bryce Dallas Howard directs some of the I forget all the other directors' names.
Right.
Taika Waititi directs some episodes. So it's this little universe that they've created amongst this giant universe. I mean, it's some of the best things that we've seen in a long time.
Absolutely.
And it's not even just Star Wars, it's just some of the best television that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
So they've already given me the hope. I don't need them to give me anything else. I just want to go along for the ride.
That's fair. You're just like, whatever you give me, I will take.
Oh yeah. I trust them. I now trust them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get it. I understand. And look, trust me, it's like, if only the rest of the Star Wars fandom could have your Zen.
I will say it is hard to appease a vast quantity of people, and J.J. Abrams kind of pinpointed it. It's hard to make a new Star Wars movie that is going to appeal to new fans as well as old fans. But when you look at what these guys did with The Mandalorian, it's kind of like they're appealing to both sides. Like Star Wars fans love to complain. They love to complain. And the fact that the complaints about this series have been in the minority. It just shows how good they're doing. So.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, man. I think you're right. Any final thoughts on The Mandalorian you want to share with us, man?
I need more Moff Gideon.
For real, right?
Giancarlo Esposito is such a fantastic actor, and I just need more of him in this show.
Yeah.
To go back to your other question, maybe I'm expecting that. I want to see. I want to see Moff Gideon continue in the storyline at something. He's far too good an actor to not utilize. And the character was amazing.
I agree with you 100%. Like I want him to permeate the rest of the Star Wars universe. I want him in something animated. I want him in the comics.
Let's do it.
I need him everywhere. Yeah, I agree with you, man. Randy, thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate you. And man, we'll be catching up, and I'm sure talking some more Star Wars soon.